This meeting is being recorded and conducted remotely in accordance with Mass General Law. All votes will be roll call votes. All right. First things on the agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes as written?
I wrote them, so I'll make the motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, state your name and aye.
Carl Hummel, aye.
Tom Morelli, aye.
Karen Reed, aye.
Joanne Lamoth, aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Just to open status of open agenda items. First things first, for the public meeting, Board of Health has the upstairs on that night at 6. I was told I could get the downstairs, which I did book just in case, but I don't know if we want to see if we can move it like to the following week or the week after. But I'm more than willing to do the bottom room because I anticipate many of the people showing up to discuss will be on Zoom or on Teams rather than in person. You know which room I'm talking about?
Yeah. Can you talk to the Board of Health and ask if we can switch?
I can talk to them.
Because they probably don't have as many people as we might.
Oh, let's see. What kind of meeting was it? It sounded like it was kind of a big meeting. Let me just
Or
they
have a big issue as well.
Yeah, give me one sec. Just looking back through my email, I get a zillion emails a day lately. Okay, no, it's just a Board of Health meeting. I'll talk to them. In the meantime, I did book the bottom room. I'll wait to post until we have a definitive. So I should understand the wishes of the rest of the committee is that we book the upstairs room if we're able to switch with the Board of Health. If not, proceed with the bottom floor room. Is that correct for that date? 2/25?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I was able to talk to CMRPC today. Kind of I reached out to Dylan Lindholm per Jeremy's request, who's kind of our rep with CMRPC, and Dylan said to reach out to Trish Settles at CMRPC. They basically said that's we'll get back to you on that. But Dylan did say any expenditures that are made on behalf of the town of Mendon have to be approved by the planning board. So if they're going to see if it falls within the town of Mendon's free hours that we get. And if not.
So who's checking with the planning board? Dylan or Trish Settles?
Well, no. So Trish Settles is checking with CMRPC to see how this falls.
So would we be spending planning board money? Or from a
no. Well, it's unclear if we'd be spending any money at all.
Okay.
That's what the CMRPC is to check on, and if it does turn out like this will require some work for us to draft this, like that falls outside the scope of Mendon's free hours, then we'd have to go to the planning board. Does that make sense?
Okay, so CMRPC is going to check and see if this is the sort of thing they do and that they already have a engagement agreement with Mendon to do. If they come back and say yes, then we go and ask the planning board for
no, because Well, basically, it's a matter of, is this something they can do for free or something they'll have to charge the town for? And
Oh, okay.
if they charge the town, then we have to go to planning board to ask them to authorize it. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yep.
Asking someone for money, if they want money for it, makes sense. Having to ask the planning board instead of the select board is what I'm confused about.
Because the planning board is the planning board, since it's the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, is the one who determines like what sort of expenditures like they're the ones, the point of contact for CMRPC. They're the ones who are able to authorize expenses for CMRPC. It's kind of like they're part of their role as a concurrent elected body with the select board. It's just
Okay.
like anything that's a zoning article, rather than going through the select board to go on the warrant, goes to the planning board. That sort of
Right.
thing. So it's like kind of similar to that. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense because we're not going for a planning board warrant. We'd be going for a general bylaws warrant. But
Well,
we can wait
right,
until we hear back from Trish Settles and then figure
right,
out
but
what the
they're
next step is
also
going to be.
the entire engaging CMRPC is the part of the planning board's
Hmm.
kind of realm. So that's why. Furthermore, I did discuss the town administrator bylaw with Jeremy. Jeremy's having Karis look over it. They'd be ready to kind of talk to us about it in a March meeting. Aunt Mazar also requested that we have her back in March rather than in February. I said that's fine. The earth removal bylaw, I did talk to Ellen Agro about, and Ellen thinks it should be a zoning article. Ellen thinks it should be a zoning article. She also doesn't know though, like about the enforcement mechanism, because as of right now, the permits are given out through the select board. And it going to zoning would by default make it by default make it like the zoning enforcement officer, the one who does enforcement. But it doesn't really make sense as it is to be a general bylaw article.
Yep, I will agree.
So, and that's something they have talked about. But it's just a matter of if we do make a zoning article, kind of making the language kind of a little different to reflect its need for select board oversight and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Um,
So that sounds like it's more complicated. We might want to defer that to the fall because we would have to come
absolutely,
forward with both
absolutely.
a general bylaw amendment and a
Zoning
zoning bylaw
bylaw.
amendment at the same time. And make sure that the language in both of them is correct. And then we get select board approval that they're okay with the permitting and enforcement moving from their jurisdiction to planning board jurisdiction.
So the other one is the lakes and streams bylaw. I talked to Jeremy about that. Jeremy said that a lot of that was copied from state statute, our own like adoption of it.
Mm-hmm.
He does think, a lot of that stuff is harder to enforce. But like it was cribbed from the state statutes. He does think that Concom has something to do with it. So
I'm
that's
not
what
sure
Jeremy.
about that.
Yeah, that's what both Jeremy and Ellen said. So they asked me to reach out to Isabella, which I did do today, to see if she had any insight. So I know there's some people who
Well, I'll wrap my head around it and we'll see what, I'll bring it up tomorrow as something to get put on the future agenda
absolutely.
in tomorrow night's Concom meeting.
Yeah. So moving on. Those are all my open articles. Anything else? I know, Karen, anything else from the Council on Aging?
Yeah, I met with them today. There's quite a few changes that we need to go through. I worked it all out with them. I wrote it up. I took the bylaw, crossed out stuff, put in their changes, and then we need to review it and type it back up to send back to them for make sure that they
So
agree
it
with.
sound sorry to interrupt, but it sounds like this is going to be something that might be a little more complicated, might be pushed off till the fall, or
It's up to you.
I think we should be able to get it in, especially if it's mostly deleting stuff.
Yeah,
yeah. Would you
they
be
don't
able to send us the? Sorry.
absolutely. It's basically they don't do president, vice president, all that stuff anymore. They do chair, co-chair. So it's just a matter of rewording everything.
So when do you expect to have a red line document that you can mail or put on our SharePoint site, or do you need my help
I need your help.
getting? Okay.
Okay. I mean, if you have the list of changes and want to send it to the rest of the board, we can review it in maybe at our March meeting, like decide what we need to do for a red line document.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Let's do that.
Okay.
Kathy isn't here yet, is she?
No. So what's the action item for that is Karen will send out her notes from
Correct.
today's meeting listing out the changes that the COA would like, and then we'll collectively work on preparing a red line document.
Correct.
Correct. All right. And so, does anyone have Kathy's number?
I do.
Would you mind texting her?
Nope. I'll text her right now.
Thank you. And in the meantime, Carl, if you could start going through
Okay.
the noise complaint stuff.
Yep.
And we could put it on pause if she gets here to.
Yep. So what I've people seeing my screen now with two windows.
Yep.
So first, these are the notes that I just took. So that's why I was stopping and interrupting people. This is what I turn into the minutes. So what I did is Jeremy forwarded me a PowerPoint deck that in another the subcommittee dealing with library rectory stuff. And so I swiped their format and fonts and the little seals in the bottom. So it looks a little prettier. So it starts with just the cover sheet saying, hi, thanks, welcome for showing up, or if you're watching it on YouTube. The introduction is the same as the deck from November. This is the same from November. This is the same from November. With this slide, I say that the new bylaw that we create will not supersede or overwrite any of these existing bylaws. So if you have problems with a barking dog or an excessive rooster, you'd continue to use the existing ways that you report issues with that. This is the same. This basically says what we did up until, including what we did in the November meeting. Town administrator held a meeting to determine how to implement the bylaw, and now we've scheduled the first meeting and we'll be holding it later this month. What's next is at the 25th meeting, we hope to get citizen input, then we'll draft the bylaw language and review with municipal stakeholders. Select board and town council review and sign off. Select board places article on the meeting, annual warrant, and then we present it at town meeting. What are we doing at tonight's meeting on the 25th? Reviewing the enforcement issues, how the town will enforce the bylaw, which is to say all of the decisions that the town has reached on how they're going to do stuff based on the last meeting last November. And then we'll ask for input on the bylaw issues. What should the bylaw prohibit? Taking a noise complaint, call the police a non-emergency number. That person will review what information they're given and decide which town department will respond. So after the bylaw is approved, there'll be training for people who do who take this phone call, and they'll know who to refer it to. Chief Kersey doesn't think that's not a big deal. He does that kind of thing all the time. If someone calls Ellen or the town clerk or someone else, they would be told, nope, I'm not dealing with this, call the police non-emergency number and go through that process. A town enforcement officer will go out and to the site. They will have a approved and calibrated instrument. This is a photo of what the Board of Health uses right now. And the little line, phone apps are not sufficient. One of the things that all of the other bylaws and discussions say from other towns is, yeah, people have a decibel meter on their phone, but that's not sufficient for issuing a citation. And that's why we have the calibrated instruments. Finding a noise complaint. This is the language that Chief Kersey helped me. The original language in my previous draft, Chief Kersey wanted to tweak it. I changed it to this, and now he is signed off on it. So under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D, the responding enforcement officer has the option of assessing a civil fine. And what we decided at the November meeting, first offense, you get a verbal warning. Second offense is a $100 ticket. Third and successive offenses are $300 tickets. The clock resets every year. We don't want the case where someone says, well, you got a verbal warning 15 years ago, so we're writing a $100 ticket this time. When you get a noise ticket and you want to appeal it, you can follow the same process you would for any other ticket that you get, a civil ticket. You can pay the fine, or you go to court and file an appeal within 21 days. This is the same process that's done for all of the other civil fines, for the bylaw fines. What's excluded from the bylaw? This is pretty much the same as the last slide deck. Emergency support is exempted, snow removal, municipal maintenance repairs if they have to go fix a culvert. People at the meeting said generators running during extended power outage. People are allowed to do that because it's considered an emergency situation. And then the other one is activities granted a one-time permit by the select board that specifically requests a noise exemption. So when the circus comes to the Route 16 in North Avenue, they could request if they wanted fireworks. If someone's going to hold a block party, they get a permit for it. If the drive-in wants to hold a Taylor Swift concert and blast loud music, or Vandervalk Winery wants to have a concert, the the select board is just, said that they're the ones who would be giving approval, and it would be a one-time exemption. So this is the way that we can let people celebrate in town. So the previous slides have shown how the town departments will respond to a noise complaint. So now we need input from the citizens on and other interested stakeholders like developers and contractors on. And these are the same things before. Do we have an absolute decibel level or a threshold above ambient? Do we have different thresholds for residential versus contractor noises? Do we have thresholds for different hours and days of the week? And anything else that people will come up with during the meeting. So the first question is, how do you measure? There's same as the previous deck. You either have the decibel level or you have it above ambient. In addition, some towns have a section in their bylaw for what are called tonal noises. This is an annoying whine or hum or buzz that is constant. And it sounds louder than it actually is, so that you want to distinguish that because we are using a decibel meter to check things. Next question is, does it matter who makes the noise? Do you want to have different rules if a resident or a renter is making noise at their home on the weekend? Do you want to restrict a contractor working at a site in a building demolition permit and say that you don't want them making noises on the weekend or on a Sunday? If a contractor is working at somebody's house, for example, leaf blowers, if someone's come in to mow lawns and leaf blowers, do we want to restrict how early they can start in the morning? Does it matter what hour and day it is? Typically, other towns say there's one standard for Monday through Friday, there's another standard for Saturday, and then Sundays and holidays are the most restrictive. You'd start, what morning time do you want to say no loud noises should be happening before? Do you want to say in the evening, pick a time at which point you want to switch over to quiet hours? Other towns, depends on how complicated they want to go. I've heard Chief Kersey say he's hoping that we come up with a simple one that's not, because then it's very easy for the code enforcement officer to go out there. Some towns have a very complicated matrix, and for example, the town of Arlington, people are not allowed to do any building permit work on a Sunday or a holiday. It's prohibited. Other places say that if you're a resident, you can work on Friday evening until 9 o'clock as opposed to stopping at 7 o'clock. Similarly, Saturday, you want to give residents who only have the weekend to do work, you want to give them a couple extra hours in the evening to work as opposed to a contractor. So these categories are just for discussion only. The GBRC is not recommending that we do anything as complicated as this. The feedback that we've heard from developers in other communities is they'll shrug and follow whatever bylaw Mendon creates, and then in some cases that might raise the cost or delay schedules if they can't work on Saturdays or on Sundays and on holidays. So at this point, that concludes the slide presentation, and I'd now like to entertain questions and comments and feedback from the audience. Please use the microphone and identify yourself by name and street address. And respect other people's time. Assuming we're in the upstairs room, we'd want to have people come up to the table where the microphone is. And then at the end is the same page of links, and then only policy wonks like us would actually go and look at the links. So
Um,
that's the changes I've made from the previous slide deck.
First questions first. Karen, did Kathy say anything?
She's
Yes.
on.
What?
She's
She-
on.
Oh, she's here.
Yeah, I made it. Thanks, guys.
You
Yes,
know,
she-
The agenda
do you-
wasn't on the town website.
it wasn't.
No, so that's usually my first go-to to get
I was
on.
I had that's weird because it was posted.
No, it was there. I was able to click my way through to it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dan said there were some issues, so maybe maybe it's operator error.
Let me just
All right.
double check. So I go
Why don't we put a
down.
pause on the why don't we
Yeah.
put a pause on the noise complaint conversation and discuss the stuff we have for the historic commission.
Yeah, it's here. You just have to find your way through to it. That's one of the big complaints that I've given feedback
Yeah.
about this website, that you
Yeah,
have to click all over the
navigating.
place to get to it.
All right. So our reasons for having you here tonight have to do with the or I think you've been briefed. Give me 1 second though, pulling my notes. So the scenic roads bylaw, understand that the historic commission wants to pursue some updates on it, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to discuss.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen with that part of the bylaws up now.
Christine did most of the work on, I was hoping she would be on tonight because I'm probably not the best person to speak on the proposed changes. Let me just see what I have in my notes here.
What's
Um,
Christine's last name?
Christina.
Christina, sorry. Deb, what's her last name? Why am I drawing a blank? I mean, Karen.
Uh,
See?
so am I.
Okay, all right, so I have excerpts, shade trees. I think we were just trying to tighten up the language so it's more specific, in that it's more inclusive of roadside elements such as barn foundations, stone walls, scenic road, shade trees, and the process is the part that was seemed to be failing, is that we weren't able to connect with the planning board to try to make sure there was an open line of communication, because naturally the historic commission would understand a little bit more about the historic nature of items along the roadside as opposed to the planning board. So I think what we were trying to do is make it a little more inclusive so that there's somebody there that can be referenced when topics like that come up, because technically it's not under our purview to approve or disapprove any demolition of things along the roadside.
Christina Campbell.
Christina, is she here?
No.
So what is it that you'd want to say in a town bylaw that would get the planning board's attention? Is this another thing that should be a zoning bylaw instead of a general bylaw? So that there's a special, we would have in effect a special zone called scenic district road, and the rules there would be zoning rules for that particular road.
Right. So let's see, I'm looking at a permit application. You know, Carl, that is a good question. Whether or not it should be a bylaw or let me just see if I can find. Or a general bylaw. Is that what you were asking me?
Yeah, because we were already talking about doing something like that for the earth removal bylaw. Ellen Agro thinks that should get moved over.
Right, right. And that's certainly something I think we should consider. Should it be a general bylaw? Because I know what we've done in terms of prep work is we've reviewed other scenic road bylaws. We have put together a permit for scenic roads that hopefully would get on. Do we use Permitize? Through our permitting system, so that
No, I know. Well, Hopedale uses it, but when I was with Mendon, there was a different permitting system used. I don't know if it still is.
Right. So, I mean, as long as it gets in front, our concern is it should get in front of, enough people to review it before it's approved. Carl, I wish I was a little bit more helpful on this. I know, Tom, you did a lot of work on this one. Maybe you should chime in. I'm just wondering if we should go ahead.
Well, so I guess so. So really, the main thing that we want to do is make sure that the historic commission has a chance to review a demolition,
Right.
and because that's not happening.
Right. And there is really no application process for it. From what I understand, all you need to do is just, in a lot of cases, it's not even brought to anybody's attention.
That's not the same. That's a different one. There's already a demolition delay bylaw.
Well, that was my point. I mean, it sounds like it sounds more like the bylaw that's already there isn't being followed than anything else. Is that
Yeah, I believe
wrong?
that's and again, it's very loosely worded, so it is open to a lot of interpretation.
Fair enough.
So Carl, I'm wondering if if I'm not really prepared to speak in length and in depth on this, because I didn't hear back from Christina.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we should just join in at the next meeting,
Okay.
or is there enough time to do that?
We can squeeze you in at one point or another, but here's my point. The historical district and the historic district commission, there's two different things on the town.
Yes.
So let me look at it and just make sure that I'm looking at the right thing. There's the historic district commission and there's the historical commission. So there's two different things.
Yes.
So
yes.
there are also two separate bylaws. There's one bylaw which is for the scenic roads. And then there's another bylaw for demolition delay. So it sounds like you're having more trouble with the demolition delay, since that's a recent one at the very end of it. We're doing a rolling review and we hadn't got.
So we did
pull that
edits.
one forward and tighten it up sooner rather than later, and then we can certainly bump that up. But either way, we would want either the historical commission or the historic district commission to come back and say, this part of the bylaw here doesn't do what we want it to do, and then we can work
Right.
with you to, as you said, tighten it up.
Right, right. Yeah, we were supposed to do that on Monday, but we also didn't have our meeting, so, yeah, why don't, I need to go back to the group and both groups, and we need to get, our
Okay.
project together and, get our, wishes together and our wording together, and then we will come back and meet with you. How does that sound?
Okay. Go ahead and invite me to that meeting and I can listen in and ask leading questions.
Perfect. That's great. Our next meeting is the 23rd, and I will make sure you get an invitation. And anyone else that would like to join in?
Let's see, that's the 23rd. Yep, that's Monday. Well, we don't want to have too many people show up or we have to post a public meeting notice because we
Yeah,
have a
well,
quorum.
right, right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So it sounds like we should just we should plan to meet sometime in March, one of our March meetings about this. And it sounds like we really are, we're really talking about is the demolition delay bylaw.
Now, I will question that because we worked with Lonnie Tinio 2 years ago to modify the demolition delay bylaw to a point where he agreed that it was more acceptable. So I believe that we got the demolition delay bylaw to where we wanted it to be. It was a scenic road bylaw. I believe the historic district has some issues with their design principles,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they need to clean up.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
So,
Karen?
So why don't we plan to discuss both then?
okay. So that would be
Yeah.
chapter 30, historic district bylaw.
Yes.
So that's
It sounds
another,
like, why don't we plan a meeting, like the second meeting in March, to discuss everything historic related? Kathy, if you could come back with your specific asks
Yep.
as a commission, for changes.
You got it.
And then we can discuss the scenic roads bylaw. We can discuss the
historic
demolition delay
district. Yeah.
bylaw and the historic district bylaw. And that way we can discuss them all right then. We can determine which ones might need some additional work, which ones might be easy to have a red line document ready to go, and like which ones we might need to wait till the fall,
All right. I apologize for not being.
No, that's fine. But let's plan for that for the second meeting in March. So that way we can dedicate more time to it. And
Okay, great. All right, send us an invite for that meeting, and I will send you, Carl, I'll give you an invite for
Yep.
the district and commission,
So the
On
second
the
meeting in March
23rd.
would be March 25th.
March 25th. All right.
Same time, same bat channel, 6:30 Wednesday.
All right, sounds good. March 25th. All right. All right, terrific. All right, well, thank you for setting aside time for me this evening, and
We're all
I'll
about
be-
changing
my-
bylaws and standing up in a town meeting and saying, let's change things.
I know, it's always such a fun day, isn't it? All right, well, you all have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you
Good night.
soon. Bye.
all right. As for the so moving back to the noise bylaw presentation, what is everyone's thoughts on like the presentation itself? Do we think this is a good presentation?
I think it's a good presentation.
I think it's
Yep.
very thorough. Yeah, I think it's as thorough as it needs to be, though. Thank you for working on it, Carl.
Yeah.
Mhm.
After we have any feedback at all, I'd take a first shot at stealing from all of the other towns' bylaws and coming up with a draft that I think incorporates things. That gets reviewed by everybody and then eventually goes off to town council to make sure that I've got all of the legal things correct, and that when I went and grabbed section A from one town and section B from another and smushed them together, that they play nice with each other. What I would do is if if the select board thinks it's appropriate and Jeremy thinks it's, would fit in, I'd come up with a even simpler slide deck that would be presented at the town meeting with, here's the noise ordinance. If we have a complex matrix, I would come up with something like this for what people are proposing.
I think
So,
we can go. I think we can go with this.
yep. All right, I will send this out as my third draft because I made a few changes here and there. And we can now talk about publicity and stuff like that. Um, did you talk with Ellen about what the channels are that the town usually uses for?
I talked to Jeremy about that, and he basically said they can just post it on Facebook, and from there, they can share it in a wide variety of places. He said we could get it in a newspaper. So
So after, at some point, all of the various people in town will say, okay, we like this version of the PowerPoint deck. At that point, I give it to Jeremy and Ellen and say, okay, now this is the one to put on the website and start publishing and telling everyone to link to, so they can look at things ahead of time.
that sounds good. So what I'll do is I'll put together. Tomorrow I will. I'll put together a posting. I'll reach out to the Board of Health, see if we can switch,
Mhm.
and then from there, see if we can get that posted and see if there's enough time to get it in a newspaper.
Yep.
There's also an online newspaper now.
Yes, there is. All
Do we
right.
have,
If there's nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn till our next meeting, which is the hearing.
I motion to adjourn to our next meeting,
February 25th.
February 25th.
Yep. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Mead eye.
Aye.
Morale, aye. Carl, I did not hear a name with that aye.
Carl, I.
Thank you.
Joanne Lamoth, aye.
All right. See you later, everybody.
Okay,
Good
thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
night.
Bye.